Greetings, Marsh here, and welcome to episode 177 of my modded Factorio playthrough. In this episode, we are going to get started on the new bus. Enjoy. So we need to grab some of this, put it on some drones, adding to Drone Alley right here. Well, this belt's kind of in the way, so we'll have to put this off to the side. And let's see, I'm not sure how many drones we'll need, since this stuff stacks so big. Probably like 5 drones. And each drone can do 3,000 of them. So like 15,000. So we'll have concrete brick, clay brick. And we need to get regular brick on here as well. It looks like it's being sent to make concrete here. So that is a perfect place to make another depot. Although the spacing is a little bad. So we'll come in from this side and be a little silly about it. And do the same thing where we want 15,000 of these. So stone bricks are now on there. Concrete brick, clay brick. Okay. So they should all be delivered after being requested. And we'll probably want like 20 drones for all of this. And if we're starting up a new bus, it means we're going to need an enormous amount of belts. Probably all of them. And generally lots of undergrounds too. And some extra splitters. We have hazard concrete. Luckily, the other concrete type will be delivered by drone, so we can just use that to expand the footprint. And once we're building belts and things, we won't have to walk down here to get more. We'll have to walk up there. But that's what bots are for. And I'm pretty sure we have all the necessary technologies for bots at this point. I'm just waiting on them until it makes sense. Basically, we have a nice bus making all of the bot parts. Because otherwise, that's a lot of handcrafting. Like, it's not as simple as just making the bots, but you gotta make all the roboports and all of that. That takes quite a bit of resources. Besides, you might as well have that stuff being manufactured automatically on a bot network, so they can expand themselves and you don't have to do any work. Okay, let's see. Well, I'm not sure where everything would go. But we don't have to completely smush it in here. So let's grab these spots right here. And all those should connect through. Then we'll need 4 request depots. And I brought lots of iron for all of this. No, that pole's in the way. Gotta hurry up and put the wires back in. And luckily there's a fuel depot over here now, so setting these up should go faster than they have in the past. And there we go. Is that the fuel truck already? Yep, that's fast. There go the other fuel trucks as well. So we need to decide where to actually start the bus at. Well, let's make a copy of this, since it is the exact size we wanted, and figure out where to put it. Probably as reasonably high as we can get. Well, but we want to be in the middle to not cover anything. So probably just something like right here. And give it some space for lots of belts to move around. So, like that. Because as you see, it actually takes quite a bit of space to move these things around. So hopefully that's enough. And let's start the hazard concrete there just to remind me to not build any closer. Okay, let's get the bus started with the necessary resources. Let's do iron, copper, and the 2 tins. And come up through here since this is the official start of the bus. And then aluminum, silver, and the 2 steels. Seems like it'll also work just fine. And bronze and brass, glass, and then the circuits. That's a pretty good order. Might as well keep using them. And then it's just the stone products. So stone, bricks, and the concrete. And gonna need more belts. Oh, we've got a few more. So these are going to come up through here. I guess I'll just keep them straight for now. We need to place this radar back in here somewhere. How about right here? Now we can connect them all. Ah, it always looks so nice seeing all the resources come in. This should be everything we need. And it's kind of amazing when you think of what it took to make all this stuff and how far away it came from. And now it's all here, ready to be transformed into something else. Well, the first thing we need to do is make some gear wheels. Of course, there's lots of gear wheels that we can't make, but we need to make iron, steel, and brass. And how much to make? About a full 30 items a second to fill up a belt. And I'm wondering if I should play it extra safe and put 2 more slots in here just to make sure whenever we expand with new resource types we'll be fine. It may seem fine now, but I'm worried that in the future it won't be. And I definitely want this one to last quite a long time. I don't know exactly what kind of lifespan I expect to get out of it, but a very long time. Let's put it that way. Well, all the gears are more or less identical, with the exception of iron gears requiring twice as many iron plates. And this menu is getting very convoluted. There's probably a lot of stuff we can cut out of here. There we go. Basically cut it all out. Much cleaner. Okay, we'll start with these. We want 30 output, but we can use productivity modules, so we will. Which requires 42 of these. Can already see that things are going to get very large very fast. But these are intermediates, and they go into lots of things, so it kind of makes sense that we would need to make a bunch of them. But I definitely didn't bring enough assembling machines for this. Suppose we don't have to make 30 a second, but we might as well. Our factory can put out 4 times as much basic resources, so it's going to be a little weird putting them down here, but it's the only open space we have. Oh, and one other thing we need to calculate is the coils, which we can also use productivities for. So I noticed it's not quite a 2-to-1 ratio, but it's reasonably close, where we probably can just do that and avoid having to have a bunch of belts. Where the coil chopper comes first, going into 2-wheel machines. It seems like yellows will work all around here. So the output's there, and then the input's there. And 1 pole right in the middle here will cover everything. And we can put another one right here, but I don't think that we quite can because that is in the way. Yeah, that's basically all there is to it. Out of fuel. Well, there you go. Okay, well we need this. We'll plop it up here. 42 of them, huh? Well, that would be 8. 16. 24. 32. 40. We could just go with this. It's not exactly perfect, but it's square, and that's what's important. And we'll wait on fully connecting that until everything is in place. Meanwhile, there's always more trees to be removed. Of course, we need the productivity modules, which are probably going to be a little short on these. Probably should grab a whole bunch of them. Okay. One other thing that's worth looking at is the efficiency that we get from these productivity modules. So normally, these gear wheels would have required 60 iron plates a second, and we get 4 out of every sheet coil. So we're basically spending approximately 40 plates to get 60 plates worth of gears. So that's what we gain by having this, but all of these productivity modules. Seems worth it. Seems pretty good. I don't think we need near and far or anything like that, because they are building up just fine. But having full belts does look nice, though. I hate seeing half the belt unfilled. And it's a little bit more buffer. Well, that seemed to work alright. So now let's come in here and do the same thing with the others. The recipe is going to be the same. It's just, we're going to need half as many input plates. So we want 30 output. But productivities. And then these come from the sheet coils and productivities. The ratio won't be exact, but we can do something similar to this. But instead of one chopper feeding 2 machines, we can do one chopper feeding 4. Let's copy this here. So it would be something like this. And the belt would come in kind of like before. Yellow inserters are actually just fine for all of this. And we'll have to see what it looks like. So if that is 8, 16, 24, 32, and 40. And then let's try this out with our new resource, steel coils. Seems to work from what I can see. Need to pipe them in here. I mean, certainly seems to pump the gears out fast. That's so much more than what we're doing right now. What are we doing right now? 4 machines. So we're doing 6 per second. So we're upgrading to 30. Plus with productivity modules, so it's using less resources. Alright, we need to do brass as well. Doesn't go into quite as many things, but it still goes into a lot of stuff, and it would be annoying to make all of those on site every single time we want to make one of these. So let's just manufacture them in bulk. And it's pretty much exactly the same. Just a different recipe. So square, so perfect. Although, probably should have checked the recipe, because it is actually different. Because brass plates don't have to get chopped up. They still use the productivity modules though. So it won't be quite as square. But a lot of this though can stay quite similar. And then switch them over to brass. And let's see what this looks like. Seems good. Well, the next thing to make is probably the single cylinder engine because it requires iron gear wheels. And the small electric motor as well. I just realized we don't have any copper cable on here. It goes into quite a bit of stuff. That was an interesting oversight. We could certainly use the other coils, but we're going through the effort of making copper ones, so why not just do that? So I guess it'll have to go at the next available slot. Sigh. It was looking so nice. That's how things are. As they grow and expand, they change and become less ideal. I guess I was thinking that copper wire goes into making circuits, but it certainly goes into other things as well. Okay, well, we'll add this. Negative 512 and nuke the network. And there's the request. Well, let's see what kind of numbers we're going to need for all of these. And actually, before that, we should do the big electric engine, component of robots, and many other important things. Okay, look at that power armor. Oh, but that requires electronic logic boards. That's how it always works. But we can make these. It's going to require lubricant, which we'll have to get here. We'll have to see exactly how much lubricant a second that is. But we'll grab them. Can we do assembly machine? Well, if we were making the motors, we could. Probably want to do that sooner rather than later. Maybe handcraft those. That's a lot of handcrafting, but it's just funny, though, that we're building a new bus, and then right as we do, it's going to be outdated with new equipment. But that's how it is. That's how Factorio always is. So if you're always obsessed with everything being perfect, you'll never move forward. Obsessed about perfection when you're in the end game. Working your way there, it's less important. But we unlocked nanobot range and nanobot speed. There's another tier we haven't unlocked yet. What does that require? Robots. You know what? It's probably worth researching just to make our nanobots go faster. So that unlocks the flying robot frame and the attack robot frames, which is the main component of making robots. So we'll grab that simply so we can max out our nanobots here. As far as where to put them, we could keep going to the left, but we want to use both sides of the bus in order to be space efficient. So let's use this area down here. It will be a little annoying in the sense of looping resources back. For example, if we need these iron gear wheels, we can't start pulling them off until right here. But we can certainly position it in a way that makes that happen. It won't be perfectly straight, but it'll work. Or we can pull it off here, have it be straight, and then just send the belt back to where it needs to go. That might work. Because everything must be straight. Okay, well we have some motors and engines to make. Is 30 engines too many? Not really. I mean, it uses up all of our available gears. Let's do the same thing for motors. And that kind of uses all the gears too. Would probably be overkill to do 30 a second of all of those. Well, it depends. What else uses those gears? Well, multi-cylinder engines use gears. I don't think, yeah, 30 of those is way too many. Then the electric motors, which, yeah, that's a bit much. So these numbers could stand to be much smaller. Maybe like 15 a second of each of these. And then these big ones, well, we don't really use multi-cylinder engines that much. We certainly use them as a component of handcrafting. But they just don't go into very much. So it doesn't seem necessary to go nuts with those. And electric motors, let's see, well, robots. Well, assembling machines. So they have more of a use. But engines, we'll look at that in a second. But we have 15, 15, and then, well, if we have 15, then there's no point in making any more of these. Well, making them at the rate of 7.5 a second would completely max out our electronic boards. And when thinking of how big to build these, it's not so much trying to balance everything out, it's just looking at what the maximum of the factory is. At least with your current setup, and we only have one red belt of basic electronic boards, and that's all the factory's even producing. Not considering the logistics, so there's kind of no point in trying to make more than that. And 300 lubricant is a bit much. We'd probably want to send a train for that. And as far as engines, oh, I don't know. Even one per second seems like a lot. Okay, well, let's go through here. We don't need to worry about iron gears. They're being made elsewhere. But we can use productivity modules. And same here, you're going to start to see a trend. Where it's productivity modules, and then these come from coils. Which also use productivity modules. Just making sure these numbers look reasonable, and they do. Comes from steel, which comes from coils. Other than that, those other items are already being made. I think 1 per second is just fine. And these big motors. Well, that's going to be enormous. 200 machines. Well, how many of these motors go into it? Quite a lot. Interestingly, the robot frames do not go into each other. So there is that. But the robots do go into each other, which means functionally we will need every frame. So if we want robot frame 4, well, that robot will take all these other frames. Although they require many less motors than the first one, which does require the 4. I don't think motors is something we're going to want to be waiting on. So it's probably worth making this big. And with productivity modules, they won't completely nuke the factory. That'll leave some left over for other processes. But now that we're building new setups, if we can make productivity modules work, we absolutely should. Okay, we have some setups here. First 3 are going to be much smaller than the last one. Let's figure something out for the motors. There's not a lot of these going in, so it's probably worth them being at the bottom and just feeding a belt. Well, let's compute by factory. Find out what we would need to do. So it's 1 to 6. Something like this, and we can do them at this distance as long as we give up that middle inserter spot. I'm always kind of surprised at how fast the inserters are getting. Or even yellow inserters can do quite a lot these days. 3.6 items a second. So we can do those two together. Then those can grab from there. And then from the bus, they can get the gears. Then the output can be here, but because of the position of those poles, we need to be careful where we put these. And that's the basic idea. So we need to make 9 of them. Although putting 9 of these next to each other seems a little wasteful considering how much bigger these setups are. So let's double the size of these. So if each one of these is 2, it means it needs another group of these down there. Then we can kind of plop these on the other side, but change the inserters. And productivity modules. Let's position the thing on the corner. Match it up with these machines. Still seems like it's going to be a little large. So as a result, let's make it slightly longer. Do a third set of machines. And move them down a square. And we can do some belt sharing by lining that up there, and we'll have to move the inserters around. But something like that. We get 3 rows of them. And that should be a more appropriate size. Cool, all that's done. Guess we'll be testing it out later. Okay, I think this is all configured correctly. We will, of course, find out. So where are we going to need these gears? Something lined up right here. It seems like that would work. It'll be a little convoluted. But if we connect that right there, then that can connect right in there. And now these gears should get distributed. Let's make sure it works before we start hooking other things up. So far, so good. Okay, we got our coils. Let's see how this works. Seems pretty good. It's a pretty significant setup. Well, that's way more than I thought it would be. Is that correct? Because we don't need 64 per second. Yeah, I doubled this up and made it way bigger than it needed to be. Well, hold up. Well, if that's the case, although it's annoying to have to do extra work, because 60 per second is just way too many. It's a little long of a setup, just like that, but the numbers work out. Okay, well now we need to get the materials down here. I'm gonna try something. I'm not sure if it's going to be distasteful or not, but we have the resources here, which we pulled off. So let's just zip it back. This is so we get the full output of the gears. If we pulled it sooner than that, we wouldn't get access to this line. So this should be good now. Much more compact than I thought it would be. Yeah, it's a little long, but I was thinking, what else could I really do? cut it down to 1 machine each and then have it be super wide. And 3 machines just fits nicely with the length of the poles, so let's go with this. But it seems to be running well. And we are slowly but surely getting a nice collection of intermediates. So the next one we have to do are the electric motors, multi-cylinders, and big electrics. But that's going to have to wait till the next episode. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you later.